Welcome to another episode of Got Time with Christopher John, your scholar and gentleman in a hoodie. Black behavior has been policed and criminalized like no other, and history continues to reflect the consequences for bad behavior varies along racial lines. While the spotlight has been on Cincinnati over a viral street brawl, the matter of race continues to be an essential factor. From a supposed patriotic lens, you would think Americans, regardless of race, would be in support of the Americans in this matter, but the trump card of race is in play. It's been that way from the beginning, specifically in Ohio. The philosophy behind Jim Crow did not begin in the South, but in the northern state of Ohio. This is a 2-minute clip from the Equal Justice Initiative.
On April 1, 1807, Ohio enacted a law that prohibited black people from testifying in cases where white people were involved. In the early 1800s, the black population of Ohio grew exponentially as black people gained freedom and escaped enslavement. In response, Ohio's legislature launched a coordinated campaign to prevent black people from settling in the state. Ohio's black laws, enacted between 1804 and 1807, restricted the movement and freedom of black people already living in the state, denied all black people the right to public education, and required black residents to register with local authorities and prove their freedom on demand. Other laws prevented black people from competing financially with white residents. One law required black people to post a $500 bond guaranteed by 2 white men within 20 days of moving to the state. The 1807 testimony law built on these racial restrictions and prohibited any black person from testifying against white people who committed crimes against them or others. The law made black people vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. White landowners took land and other resources from black people by filing frivolous suits they knew they could win, since black people could not defend themselves through testimony. In one 1841 case, a black woman who witnessed 2 white men murder her husband was barred from testifying in court. Ohio's testimony law remained in effect for decades and had long-term consequences that left black people unprotected by laws upholding basic rights.
Stephen Middleton's book on the black laws in Ohio is a good resource in understanding race and law in America. The issue of race has been a paradox for Ohio since statehood. The very first legislative act in Ohio was about race. The very first concern from white officials was how to oppress and abridge the rights of black people in Ohio. The 1804 Black Codes were designed to discourage black people from moving to the state. The state legislature approved an act to regulate black and mulatto persons, and it was amended 3 years later, stripping black residents of their rights in the courts. The Ohio black laws gave white supremacy priority over justice. The laws not only closed the courts to black people, but they also made it nearly impossible for them to make a living. The fines on white employers for hiring unregistered black workers were tripled to $150, which is about $4,000 today per employee. The laws also required black citizens to have 2 white landholders vouch for their good behavior and put up a $500 bond, agreeing to pay authorities that amount if the black person got into any trouble or was found behaving badly. That bond is about $13,000 today. The testimony law, barring black people from testifying against white people, meant that white criminals could and did rob and assault black people with impunity. It meant white merchants could and did defraud black customers with no fear of being sued for their fraud. Black residents who got swindled out of land could not turn to the courts for justice. Despite these laws, the black population reached nearly 10% by 1829, and the reward for the black community's resilience was violence. In Cincinnati, white fragility, insecurity, and rage descended upon the black communities in the form of three riots: 1829, 1836, and 1841. Violence upon these communities that went unchecked, violence that was excused. From the beginning, the despotism of injustice has been upon the backs of black lives. Perhaps this is the America the maggots want us to get back to. An America that is less perfect, where opportunities are exclusive, and where fiction is more acceptable than the truth. Joining me at the table is a prominent Cincinnati figure. She is known for her activism in politics and community service. She has been recognized for her commitment to public service, including her advocacy for racial equality, justice, and violence prevention. She has introduced and passed several proclamations illuminating Black history. Her work has been recognized with many awards, including the Air Force Longevity Service Award and the Air Force Good Conduct Medal. She is an enlisted United States Air Force veteran and an avid community volunteer and has served on several boards. Joining me at the table of Got Time is Councilwoman Victoria Parks. Thank you for making time for us here today.
Christopher, it is my complete pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, we're going to get into it. We're going to have a meaningful, spirited conversation. You've made news. You say the least, right? When you expressed about the couple here in Cincinnati, the Russian couple, that with the brawl that went viral.
It was a bar fight.
It was exactly, and your quote was, "They begged for the beatdown," and some were not pleased by that. So, what I want to do to start out this conversation is give you the space and time for you to share your uninterrupted thoughts, about what has transpired over the last few weeks.
Christopher, thank you so much. I am saddened and regretful that the incident at issue has added fuel to the polarization of factions, political and racial. In my time in public service, I have worked towards the betterment of all those I represented. I didn't and don't condone violence. My intention was simply to point out, as in any confrontation, there are two sides to a story. Recent actions by national and state actors to demonize municipalities headed by Democrats and people of color have been accelerated and targeted. The phenomenon begins at the highest office and is echoed throughout descending players on the state level. The results of this movement have created a schism in the fabric of local government that defies principles of compromise and gainful debate. The effort to turn back the clock on tolerance and acceptance of the others in society is a losing proposition. Too many people before us have suffered and sacrificed to attain the civil acknowledgement of those not perceived to be the majority. It is our task to maintain and improve the lot of all, the present and the future.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I know you took time to really to express that. And I definitely, we're gonna talk about a few things. Um, and I really do feel that there's an issue of matter of grace that is afforded to some people and not to others. And I have a strong issue with that. That's one. Um, with this incident, the appointed VP, he used language talking about calling citizens lawless thugs. Yet that same name calling was not provided to those that were committing violence on January 6th. So there's a clear, different standard of consequences depending on who is committing the bad behavior. So can you share with us your perspective on this reality?
Indeed. I watched January 6th and I couldn't believe my eyes. and and justice prevailed. They were locked up. They went to jail. But as soon as this president took office, he released them. He forgave them. A presidential pardon. But we have folks here in Cincinnati who, I admit it's not their finest hour. They were downtown. It's after 3:00, and they responded to this man slapping a young man. See, Chris, like we talk about, in our culture, we are taught certain things from childhood, and mainly is keep your hands to yourself. And if they're white or if they're black, but specifically, you do not hit a white child. You do not hit a white person. But if they hit you first, and that is the way that we keep ourselves out of trouble. That's the way that we strive to protect our kids, just like the speech when your kid starts driving. If the policeman stops you, keep your hands in sight, do this, do that. So with this, in addition to everything else that is going on, our culture is under attack. And what happened that night was that white man, it's like he insisted on a fight. He just had his mind made up.
Because at one point, it was being de-escalated by another black man to where he intervened and got in between them, from what I could see from what was shared, to de-escalate it. And then that's when you're referring to, you could see the slap that was taking place.
Yes.
That it incited. Now, what I find fascinating is that slap incited what would come after that. And there just needs to be a level of accountability for everyone involved, and that's including those individuals. What I find fascinating, as a random thought, is that we're living under a regime who they're debating whether or not people who are foreigners or people who are non-citizens, if they deserve the same due process as citizens. So that is being debated in the highest office of the land, if people who are non-citizens, if they have rights. And what's amazing is the same people that are aligned with that same philosophy are advocating for the non-citizens folks in this situation over the folks who are actually citizens. Now, maybe I'm losing my mind, but that sounds strange to me, and there's a lack of inconsistency.
It's a glaring point. It's true. In this instance, when I spoke up about it, I think that is the point. Let's get to that.
Yeah.
When I saw the video and I saw what happened and I saw the situation being de-escalated several times, when they said he's an old man, leave him alone. They tried their best to protect this guy, but he insisted on causing trouble. And so that's what I saw. And I'll say this, if that was my brother, my grandson, my son, or my man, if he went downtown and did the same thing, I'd say he was begging for it. So it's not necessarily racial. This is just common sense. I don't know where these people grew up, but that was the law of the land in my neighborhood.
I don't think that necessarily the incident itself is racial. As you said, it's a bar brawl. And matter of fact, over the summer, there has been a few of them. There was one in Fort Wayne, for instance,
Oh my
that
goodness.
for whatever reason didn't make a lot of national attention because it was 6 white men who gathered to descend upon one black man.
One black man.
And I looked at the information. I was quite surprised too. In that city, the mayor is a black woman, of Fort Wayne, which I was surprised. Me being from Indiana, knowing a little bit something about Fort Wayne and a few other areas in Cincinnati, in Indiana, I just found that fascinating. But that didn't garner a lot of attention. I didn't see the same venom calling them lawless thugs,
Right, no
and
thugs.
things. It wasn't a lot of national scale behind that. And so that's where I think race comes in, because I thought about this idea. If the Russians were Mexicans and the black people involved in this incident were white, would it be the same narrative?
That's a very good question. And the answer lies in January 6th.
That part, absolutely. So you are currently serving an elected position, office on city council, and I'm paying close attention to what's happening to a lot of black elected leadership across the country, specifically women, black women. And it reminds me of the 1873 Colfax Massacre.
Yes.
And so for those, my listeners and viewers, just do a quick search on that.
Christopher, if you can give a quick background on that.
Absolutely. The quick, fast, and hurry is that in Colfax, Louisiana, 1873, you have a situation to where this is amid the same era of Reconstruction where you have elected black officials like no other. And so the white men of that community were not pleased with black men being in positions of power and authority.
Right.
And so what they did was they waited after a convening of a meeting, and when they were coming out, they gunfire.
Yes.
150 black Americans
Ambush.
killed on that day.
Ambushed.
And there was no recourse, no punishment, no jail time or anything. We're talking about flat out murder. 150 black Americans.
Yes.
And nothing was done about it. And what that did was that started off a chain to where black elected officials were seen as a threat to white supremacy.
Exactly.
And so to me, I see that we're back at that stage.
I can see
where black leadership, specifically black women in positions of power, of being a threat and being attacked. And so my question to you is, as you see this, you serving the community, what are some actionable strategies that we need to be considering in confronting, these assaults?
It's true. For instance, I'm in no mood to fold.
All right.
I am the product of a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Our ancestors laid down their lives and sacrificed. Their lives were harder than what my life is. At this point, the powers that be want to take this away so that my grandchild's lives are harder than mine. I resent it. I am frustrated and I'm livid about our rights being attacked. See, and they're not that old. I grew up, I started school in a segregated school system. So it's what it's like within my lifetime. My mother was in a segregated school system, my father. And let's not talk about my grandfather who was enslaved. And so these rights in this democracy, they are rights that have been fought for because they're never going to give us anything. We have to fight for it. It is a struggle every time. And so now that we are in power, we are the product of the hard work that has been done by our parents and grandparents. And so now we're finally in a position where we can have an influence on laws and policy. And the only thing we want to do is to bring our societies together. If you ask any of these women in leadership, our goal is the bountiful community. We strive to build a society and a community where everybody has the ability to give their gifts,
Right.
and to where their gifts and their talents are expected and respected. The thing that we know is that God gave us these talents, and we're all different. There's nothing wrong with different cultures, but we are better together. And that is where the threat to to Donald Trump is. He wants to insist that they are superior to every other culture, and it's not true. And so when it comes up and it's supposed to go through our courts, through our
Due process.
Right. He changes the rules.
The rules are being changed.
They are
all over the place.
And what where the Supreme Court used to be our protection, it no longer is.
Yes.
And that's a problem. That is a problem. It will. I don't have so much confidence in them. Matter of fact, when they say it's going to the Supreme Court, my reaction is like, oh my goodness, it should not be that way.
Well, I mean, the argument can be made the Supreme Court has been bought and paid for.
Exactly.
And so I think we're dealing with two different, people of African descent, the majority or mostly those that have not been compromised by by capitalism, been compromised by greed. There is this idea of we pull our resources together because your success is my success.
That's right.
It's almost the spirit of Ubuntu, which I talked a little bit about that with Dr. Robin Martin in a couple episodes back. Check that out if you haven't checked that out. But it is a situation where you have that spirit of let's pull our resources together so that we can coexist versus a mindset of no, certain people need to be exploited. And so, and that exploited spirit goes back to those days we talked at prior to the Colfax massacre, prior to Reconstruction.
That's right.
That's going back to that spirit of that slaveholder mentality of exploiting other people and not respecting their dignity and their humanity.
Right.
And so I think that's what I see, that spirit that's coming. Maybe I can't say it's coming back. It's always been there.
Exactly. And the thing is, Christopher, for instance, I have not the capability to be racist. And the people who do have the capability to be racist, I don't know that they can understand how a white man slapping a black man might set the community off. Because your success is if I can help you, it's my responsibility to do it, because we rise and we fall together. And so within this Ubuntu, within our community and what we do, because there may be some people that think that they're a part of this supremacist tribe. They're not. That's a trick. I don't know how they got food like that.
And I always say, if that was the case, then you could have picked your own cotton, you could have picked your own tobacco and all that. If you're that so far superior, then you could get your hands in the mud and in the dirt and did the work yourself. But history shows that was not the case.
That's right.
You needed someone else to do that work. And I guess that's the thing that makes me upset, is this idea of, I've seen the jobs they talk about, and it's amazing. The unemployment rate right now is ridiculous. The gap between the haves and have-nots is getting even more divided.
Yes, it is.
And we know that, and even with that being so, in all these targeted cities where he talked about, most of them where there are madam mayors, crime rates are down low.
Right.
In D.C., and various different other,
in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati,
It's
absolutely. But yet this regime is attacking, and they're using this gaslighting, talking about all the crime. And it makes me think about, we had a conversation, it makes me think about, and I believe you were serving this country under this administration. Made me think about the Carter administration.
Right.
And
Exactly.
That's when,
Yeah, yes.
he was your commander in chief.
Exactly. Right. I went in 76 and came out in 80. And that is when Jimmy Carter was the president.
And so I think about, I was a child at that time, but this has allowed me to revisit that more recent history. Because that was also, after his administration, that was this wave of, we got to get our country back. And then you have the Reagan administration, and their slogan was, "Make America Great Again."
Yes.
And it's amazing, as if that was like the first surface wave of change and backlash to roll back accomplishments from the civil rights movement and things of that nature, where this one is much deeper.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, indeed. Where we fight, where we have made advances, this regime wants to erase our history. They want to eliminate our monuments, and that is an insult. That insults us. That it insults. So we fight for it, because we will continue to honor our ancestors. I fight and strive with the same love and the same fierceness of my foremothers and fathers. For me, I am their wildest dream. Christopher, you are your ancestors' wildest dreams. I've been a county commissioner, and now I'm on Cincinnati City Council. I enact policies that reveal what is in my heart, and in representing my community. And so that is what is under attack. When they call us thugs, but see, we have actually put programs into place that will eliminate disparities, that will give children things to do. We've got programs, we've got engagement with the kids and with different people, and it matters.
Yes.
Because everybody matters. You don't just write somebody off. Nobody's better than anybody. I'm no better than anybody, but nobody's better than what I am. And so, and for this administration to have to actually want policy put back that puts us down, and they want me to agree that they are superior to me. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Well, this is the thing: is that constant of, you know, that constant oppression actually has made us stronger over decades. When you talk about us being our ancestors and our forebears' wildest dreams, because I'm quite sure in many households we were told, education is key. From the very moment that black folks were able to obtain their freedom, they started to build schools
That's right.
and churches. The value of education was paramount. We see with this administration,
Right. They want to attack education.
education is being defunded.
Right. Amazing.
You know,
Or not amazing.
right. And then we were often told, you got to work harder than anybody else to get half as much.
That's right.
And so because of that, we've had to be the brightest. We had to be the smartest. We had to do this. And I think what I'm seeing is what I see with my own two eyes, and black women have been leading that charge every time I look around. And so when you even look at the numbers of how many black women came out to vote and how many of them voted against the current administration for being elected into office, this seems to be very personal. Very personal. Whether they're attacking, as I said, whether it's city managers, if it's madam mayors, if it's a state representative, congresswomen, councilwomen, it's very, very personal.
It is.
And so for that, as a black man, that makes it personal for me.
Well, all right.
So, so for my viewers and listeners, what do we need to do to continue to protect our leaders, to protect our women through the course of this? What would you say? What would you advise the listeners and viewers what we need to do at this standpoint?
I think what is needed right now is a community conversation. Mm-hmm. We need to understand and listen to one another. In addition to, brothers and sisters, please register to vote. Please vote. I'm not saying who you should vote for, but let your voice be heard. It is so important. They're coming after, in America, our beautiful democracy, our Constitution that is like none other in the entire world. They are dismantling it and trying to make it harder for us to vote. The reason they are in power in the first place is because we didn't vote. So, for real, don't blame everything on them, because that you've always known who they are. But in this country, we have the ability for our voices to be heard. So let it be heard. We have to continue to lift one another. We have to take care of our children. Mm-hmm. We let them know that they are winners. My kids, your kids, all of the kids that I know, they are winners. They have such potential. There's greatness in them, and it is for us to bring it out of them. Giving this environment, considering our kids. I have a 13-year-old grandson who was like 7, 8 when COVID came. Mm-hmm. He was terrified. It affected his education, and he wasn't in school and all that kind of stuff, and our community saw the stark difference in the way that it affected us. Yes. And the way that it affected the majority. And so, but it's always been that way. And so we have to pull together. We come from a place where we stand on faith. Where, for instance, I didn't get up this morning and go pick cotton. I didn't last night. I wasn't afraid that the master was going to come and rape me.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmothers did. And so they have fought, they have done the redemptive suffering so that I don't have to worry about that. And so we have to put in the work that's necessary right now. Right now, we have to fight against Donald Trump and his agenda to take us backwards. It makes no sense for my grandson's life to be threatened to be worse than what mine was. And so, and we need everybody of good consciousness. I'm disappointed by Republicans. I think that, as during my life, I haven't always hated them. They they had a point of view that was different from mine, but I could still respect it.
Right.
That is not the case right now. I came up in an environment where we listened to both sides. You weighed the pros and the cons.
Yeah, gone are the days for when they go low, we go high. We sounds like we need to get in the mud.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Get in the trenches.
Yes.
And so they play dirty. I hate that. I think it's so demoralizing and I'm embarrassed for the Republican Party. They don't serve America well.
I would say that I think the disappointment for me, I'm also disappointed in a few people in the Democratic Party as well,
Right.
because I see there's just a level of complacency
Yes.
that and that is exhausting. And I think about this. I drive past this house. I know it's a law enforcement's house because I seen the cruiser in the front. And they have this flag promoting this person in the Oval Office who is a 34-time convicted felon.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing to me that someone whose job is to uphold,
Serve and protect.
yes, law enforcement, but yet you proudly support a felon. So that's what I talk about. This spirit is not rational. It doesn't make sense. And hence why the rules are being changed.
That's right. Just like Donald Trump held that Bible upside down, talking about 2 Corinthians, because he never looked in the Bible. This is upside down. His morality, his principles are upside down. With him, what is wrong is right, and what is right is wrong. And it bruises those who know the truth. And we just have to continue to not fold, to come forward with what we know is right and true. I do believe that his demise is on deck, but in the meantime, he's doing damage. But until we as a culture and as a people, until we come together like our foreparents did, like Dr. King did, like Miss Dorothy Height did, they will try us. Right now, we're under attack. They are discovering what they can and cannot get away with. With my issue, with what I said, the response was that I'm a racist, that I advocate for violence, and that's just not true.
Well, I've known you for years. We talked about, you served this country. And we know that is a way to gaslight and incentivize a base. I've had to, for my mental health, I've had to draw away from any comments regarding you that I've seen on social media, as well as other people, elected officials, and just to understand that that is just a evil spirit that is taking place. And so I need to preserve my mental health in doing that. And sometimes I think about, and I'm going to ask you this question, times like this, I wonder if, you know, if I had an opportunity to speak to one of those, our ancestors or forebears, because we talked about, the times aren't as bad for us as it was for them.
On the surface.
Yeah, on the surface, yeah. So my question to you is this, and I'm going to get you out on this last question. If you could have a sit-down conversation with an ancestor or forebear to provide you with strength, insight, and perspective through these challenging times, who would that be and why?
It would be my grandmother, who I never met, but her story is incredible. They lived in Crawfordsville, Georgia, and her husband was a full Pawnee Indian. The story was, the reason that he stayed, and Chris, this is such an example of our American story.
Mm-hmm.
So no, this is my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother. So my mother's grandparents, who she lived with on a sharecropper's farm, he was there with his family because of during the Trail of Tears, the Confederates came upon them in Georgia, and they caught him. And he said, "No, sir, boss. I's not an Injun. I's a slave." What kind of option is that? Mm-hmm. It's like the worst. I mean, being creations of the Lord God Almighty, but because this one race wants to put themselves above everybody else, he's gonna have to take the Trail of Tears, lose his family, leave them alone. And so he's clever enough to know which one of the lowest in society is best for him to claim at this time.
Right.
But
right.
Isn't that heartbreaking?
It is, but it's real.
Yeah.
It's absolutely real.
And it was a baller move. Absolutely.
Well, I just want to thank you, Victoria, for taking the time to sit down with me and having a conversation. I wish you the best. I wish our city the best. I wish this country the best as we move through this darkness, or I should say this virus that is plaguing us.
Again.
To dehumanize.
Yes.
It's a dehumanizing spirit. And so I just want to lift you up, stay motivated, stay engaged. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
The reality is the scales of justice have never been even. This continued racial imbalance permits this vintage tactic of spinning a story to advocate for an agenda is nothing new. Following the 1836 Cincinnati race riots, the Cincinnati Republican attempted to portray the Black residents of destroyed communities as disreputable. They claimed that the residents affected by the riot were of, quote, ill fame, whereas the mob itself was, quote, the most systematic, orderly, and well-behaved mob we've ever witnessed, end quote. By printing language like that, the agenda was to blame the Black victims for their own suffering while celebrating the white mob's violence. The consequences for bad behavior continues to be uneven and unjust. So be vigilant, learn from our history, apply the lessons, protect our intellectual warriors, and preserve your hope by any means necessary. Much appreciation to Victoria Parks. Keep making good trouble, my friend. I am Christopher John, your scholar and gentleman in a hoodie. Know thy history.